After Brexit, what has happened to British politics is so similar to Game of Thrones, it's ridiculous. Well, they do have thrones in the UK, so maybe they are vying for it in some way. Well, first we had David Cameron. He wanted to remain, but they lost that vote, and now the UK is leaving the EU. Now, I know they're not royalty, he's the prime minister, but work with me here. So he decides since he lost the vote, he's going to step down. So David Cameron's out. All right, so who's next? Well, Boris Johnson led the exiting crew, and he wanted to leave, and he led that movement. So it's obvious that it's likely to be Boris Johnson, and all the odds makers say it's going to be Boris Johnson. So today he's got a press conference where he's going to announce his intentions, and this is what happens.
And instead of being afflicted by nerves, let us seize this chance and make this our moment to stand tall in the world. That is the agenda for the next Prime Minister of this country. But I must tell you, my friends, you who have waited faithfully for the punchline of this speech, that having consulted colleagues and in view of the circumstances in Parliament, I have concluded that person cannot be me. My role will be to give every possible support to the next Conservative administration to make sure that we properly fulfil the mandate of the people that was delivered at the referendum and to champion the agenda I believe in.
Wow, no one saw that coming. Well, apparently a couple of people in power saw that coming, and we'll talk about at the end why he might have done that. And that is a lot of drama. So there was audible gasps in that room when he said, it's not going to be me. It was like, oh, because he hadn't told a lot of his allies, and they're all in there. They were ready to celebrate. Let's go get him. It's going to be Boris. And then he's like, it's not going to be me. They're like, what? Like, what in the world just happened here? So it turns out part of what happened was this guy, Michael Gove. So he was the main ally of Boris Johnson, and he had lined up a lot of votes behind him in order to win on the Conservative side. Well, it turns out the hand of the king decided, no, I'd rather be king. So he turned his back on him, and Gove, without notifying Boris Johnson, and everybody in the UK that's familiar with the UK politics found this irony delicious, because Boris Johnson had screwed over David Cameron and only texted him 10 minutes before notifying the world, oh, by the way, I'm not going to support you on the Remain campaign. I'm going over to the Leave campaign, which everybody saw as a naked power grab, which it was. And so now his own ally, Gove, does it to him. And he writes in and does not give him any notice. And he says, Boris cannot provide the leadership or build a team for the task ahead. Well, you're in the big game now, and it is terrifying. So here is an anonymous Tory MP talking about Gove's maneuver. The most extraordinary act of treachery. I love how dramatic the British are. Michael will never win this election. When people realize what he's done, he'll never win anything. He'll never be king in the North. Okay, that last part he didn't say. Okay, here's another anonymous Tory MP. He says, what Michael Gove has done today will live on in political history for a long time. He trashed his own reputation. Yet another said, doing a Gove will become like gerrymandering, a phrase to enter the lexicon. People will forget who it was about, but not the act itself. That will live on. What is he, Walder Frey? Wow. Man, people are really, really upset at what Michael Gove did. I guess if you're a big Boris Johnson supporter, for good reason. But I'm not sure that that was really the issue. We'll get to some more possibilities in a second. But here it appears that somebody sent their regards. Let's try to find out who. Soon after his stunning announcement, one of Johnson's closest political friends told me that Gove put a bomb under us today. I told you it'd be similar to Game of Thrones. It's as if he was in the sept. He's like, wildfire? No, we're fine. Let's proceed with the trial. Someone put a bomb under us. That's what happened to the High Sparrow, Boris Johnson. Okay, now let's turn to why. So here's a Downing Street source talking to the Huffington Post. Quote, Boris fucked it up. He didn't ever back up Brexit out of principle. He did it purely for the leadership. And now he hasn't even gotten the balls to stay and fight Gove. Okay, so that last part's the relevant part. Look, you could say it's incompetence. Like one of the theories is he didn't know how to vote count very well. If he had his little spider was running around, he might have figured out that he didn't have enough support. I don't think it's incompetence. He was competent enough to have Leave win and accomplish that mission, along with the help of others, obviously. No, the last part is the curious part. Why not stay and fight? For example, there's a fight going on in the Labour Party, and another person vying for the Iron Throne has said, no, I will stay and fight for as long as it takes. Boris Johnson, at the first sign of trouble, go left, and he's like, okay, anyway, Audi 5000, I'll see you guys later. He did have a Shakespearean quote in the beginning talking about tides, and it was a reference to Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, where Brutus backstabs Caesar. That's a reference to Gove, obviously, but that's not the whole story here. He could have fought him. So now here's another theory. Boris was becoming a joke figure, wounded by his own inconsistency and disloyalty to Cameron. Now, disloyalty is a fair possibility, but look, that'll cost him some votes, and that's how the game is played. I get that part. But the whole joke thing, like he's not serious enough, he jokes around a lot, and so you need someone more serious, which then enter into the picture THERESA May. And THERESA May is someone who is now the new favorite, according to the odds makers. She's thrown her hat or her crown into the ring, and they say, see, now she's a serious person. Boris is a joke. But if he's such a joke, why was he so successful in the vote in the first place? I know it wasn't just him, but remember, the odds makers thought he was the overwhelming favorite. So obviously he wasn't a joke a day ago. So maybe it'll be THERESA May that comes out the winner here, but maybe not. And now there is one other possibility. That is that there were things going on behind the scenes that we didn't see. Well, thanks to a leaked email, we did see a part of it. So Gove's wife accidentally sent this email to the wrong person. She sent a leaked email yesterday warning that the newspaper mogul Rupert Murdoch, quote, instinctively dislikes Boris. See, there are real power players. I know that power is a shadow on a wall, and it is what people perceive it to be. And it might lay in some political leaders, or perhaps some media leaders, or perhaps people with money. So there is one guy who always pays his debts, and that's Rupert Murdoch. So if Murdoch, with his giant media empire, says it isn't going to be Boris, there's some chance it isn't going to be Boris. But how did they get him to bow his head and bow out anyway? Well, you could say, okay, Murdoch, that's your opinion, but I'll fight you, I'll fight Gove, I'll keep going. It's not like Boris Johnson in the past hasn't been a fighter. And then this throwaway line in the Huffington Post story made me go, there we go. Quote, rumors swirled about fresh tabloid revelations about Boris's private life. It's funny because I just had a discussion in last night's old school episode with Jimmy Dore, where I said they don't do political assassinations like in the old days, where they would literally kill you. You know, the CIA did plenty of those, and some of our Western allies participated with us in Latin America, Africa, other places. Now we do political assassinations usually, and I said this again on last night's episode before we had any idea Boris was going to do this, they do it through sex. They do it through financial scandals. They dig and they dig until they find something on you. And then they go, well, Boris, there are two ways you can go with this. One is you fight all of us and you're likely to lose anyway. The other is, and if you do, by the way, we'll also have this go, oh, right, I own a media enterprise. And look at these interesting tabloid revelations I have in my possession. Now, maybe it didn't go down that way, and there's no way of knowing for now with the evidence that we have. But bowing out that quickly, that unexpectedly, when he was the odds-on favorite to win, there's something else to that story. Now, or Boris, by the way, the other part that they don't tell you about is there's sticks, there's also carrots. And that reference to tide, he talked about the tide of fortune, time to take the tide of fortune. That's what Boris Johnson said in that speech. Well, the carrot that they offer you is, Boris, now remember, if you're a good team player, the tide of fortune will roll in. The moneyed interests have made a decision. Is it really Theresa May that they're going for? Is it Michael Gove? Probably they're using Michael Gove. Theresa May, based on my rough reading of it, seems like someone that the establishment is comfortable with. But whoever it might be, they decided it's not going to be Boris Johnson. Yes, there are games played behind the scenes. If you think Boris Johnson was just like, oh my God, a political trick has been played by my ally. I'm a rookie politician. I don't know how to play a trick back. I guess I'll retire. If you came looking for that kind of naivete, you've come to the wrong place. No, the game is afoot.